Good evening, and you know what? I figured we always end awkwardly. Why don't we start awkwardly? Brian, welcome back to the podcast. For all those who haven't watched all 6 seasons or listened to all 6 seasons of Ryan and Brian's Excellent Halloween Horror Nights podcast, welcome. This is episode 20 of season 6. What an episode to join us on. Brian and I are now done with HHN33 or HHN2024, whatever you want to call it. We are done. Now, Brian, I will say there's always a little bit of a chance I somehow end up there. It's happened before where like just randomly I get a ticket for like a later day, or I travel down and it's like, well, I'm here, why don't I? But there are no current plans. Plus my wife is expecting any day now.
I say are we officially like
we are there. He's full term, and we are now sub 2 weeks to the due date. So
love to hear it. So yeah, so a trip.
No, we are not planning, and especially this week would be a poor time as well, Brian.
Yes.
Just to go ahead and start off with the elephant in the room. So Brian and I are recording this Monday the 7th. And right now there is a Category 5 hurricane headed towards Orlando. So he and I both wanted to just go ahead and say that we are hoping and praying for the best for everybody down there. Everybody stay safe, buckle down. Don't worry about the event. Just make sure that you take care of your family and, you know, and just stay safe out there. And we will evacuate if you can, and just ultimately stay safe. And we will talk more about the event with you later, but our hearts are with you. And and
I just want to say we're gonna recount our stories and probably get lost in the fun and the memories, and at no point do I want that to take away from the seriousness of this week. And we are just thinking about everybody, especially off the tails of Helene, which just driving down to Florida, Ryan, I drove down through Georgia, and the damage, we lost power the morning we left for our Halloween Horror Nights trip. Actually, we lost power the night before, and we didn't have power for a few days. So it's not lost on us, and whatever we do or say, I hope it doesn't come off as insensitive, as we are just trying to enjoy the event, and we are praying for everybody
and the same for the victims of Hurricane Helene as well. We don't want to forget you as well. We know things are still rough out there. So thank you for taking the time to listen. Maybe we could be a little bit of a bright spot in that if we have any listeners in North Carolina. But
look, I'm gonna give you a little taste. I got some embarrassing scares this time. Okay,
well,
Ryan.
I can't wait to hear. You're gonna want to hear it. I don't know much, but I'm excited to tell you about. Well,
so let's rewind a little bit. The day is. I don't remember what day you left. What day did you drive down, Ryan?
I think it was the 20th, whatever that Wednesday was. It was either the 19th or the 20th. I went down on a Wednesday, but I broke it up. I did at Jacksonville because I could have gone Wednesday night, but I chose not to. I wanted to be ultimately responsible and not, get there super late at night. And I had plenty of time, Brian, after our experience of
flashing light warning. Sorry. If you're prone to flashing lights, I have my blinky cup, which apparently is not commodity.
It is. If you have one, hold on to it. Yeah.
It's just water so that you can see the blinkiness, but I just thought I would give that warning. Continue.
Another double shot of bourbon.
Is that what bourbon is?
Moonshine. It's you are in in that side of the I
am in.
You are in moonshine country, so white lightning all day long. But
could you imagine just a full glass?
Respect, but I don't know how you could do it. But yes, so I went down, and ultimately after doing 4 days in a row the first time, I was like, I cannot do 5 days. I need to make sure that I enjoy the event. And actually, I'll get a little bit to that later, because I actually did have to call an audible one of the days and kind of do a diet version of HHN, because I was like, I'm not feeling it. Went down Thursday and was able to go. I did all 10 houses on Thursday. I did 5 with my sister and brother-in-law. And actually, I might have done. Did I do 11 or 12? I don't know. I think I might have done Insidious twice that first night.
Okay.
Actually, no, because I do Express for all of them. No, I only double dipped when I didn't do Express. So
Okay.
yeah, Thursday I used my express pass. I did 5 with them to start off, and then my sister needed to leave, so I then stayed and then Ubered back. I think I was done. I mean, well, we got there. Usually we don't get there until about 7:30 when I'm with them.
Right.
And honestly, even that night was a little bit rough. About the last 3 houses in the back of the park, I was not fully feeling it. I mainly was just doing them because I'm like, I need to do all 10. I need to do all 10. Honestly, going into this trip, I wasn't sure if I was going to do some of them. Some of my ones that are not bad bottom of the list, but just like that aren't my favorites. I was like, might just be good, but I wanted to do at least one night where I did everything to kind of see where everything was, because we know that.
Well, how long had it been since you had seen
So
houses?
I went, oh my gosh, I think it'd been 3 weeks. I want to say it was 3 weeks.
So fair amount of time. A lot can change in 3 weeks.
Yes, for sure. And I'd heard that things had changed. I had actually gotten some news from my brother had gone the week prior to finish out his Rush of Fear ticket, and had said that everything was more full and that the actors did know their places. I will say, over my weekend now, Brian, this might be, who knows? I don't know the night that you had for your RIP, but I will say the theme of my second trip was holes.
Ooh. Like
I wish, but
movie?
No. While I will say
I'm tired of digging,
while I will
Grandpa.
say the actors killed it that were in there, there were notable things. Like first night going to see Slaughter Cinema and having entire movies with no one in it. But still good. So I will say that I had, in my experience, because I know I had texted you because you had said there had been some rumors with some lower cast or people quitting, and I'm like, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. And that's across the haunt industry right now and service. We can talk about that on a different episode, but we might have mentioned earlier, chaperone policies across the board, follow up actually.
Except for HHN.
That's that. Yeah. Which I will bring up later.
Did that Thursday and enjoyed myself. It was a great time. Ubered back. Wanted to make sure I got plenty of rest. Friday, it was just a chill day. We were hanging out at the house. But I have some friends that of Brian and I's that we used to shoot with at some of the parks, some of our marketing peeps that every year I usually do about one night. Now, these are locals who don't get express. So I know sometimes, as long as I can go enough with my express pass, make sure I do enough, I'm like, I want to go with them because it's a different experience. And honestly, this night was awesome. So, I mean, I don't know how in depth you want me to get, Brian, but we started off on
we're here.
So
we're settled
one of
in.
my friends, I'll leave them nameless for now, just because there is a story that night. It's pretty great.
Oh no.
So I started off and I met one of our friends at the kitchen. I Ubered because I knew that usually historically with this friend, there's lots of beverages that get consumed. And I figured just to be safe, that should give you a hint of who this is. We met up at the kitchen and we had a great time, pre-gamed. Awesome. There's a bartender there that I like to, chat up with, and she's great. Have known her for a while, and so we had some drinks there, had some food because I needed to make sure I had some food as well, and then we went and pre-gamed more at Dead Coconut Club. They had not gone yet, so and honestly, I would say Dead Coconut Club is one of the hits of the year. Like that's something that even just casually, like I'm like, hey, like let's start off at Dead Coconut. Let's go there. Let's get one or two. They had some great cocktails this year. I will say, unfortunately, this is just the old man in me, it's just so busy. And being somebody that's gone to every iteration of it, it's like, oh, this used to be a chiller place to go and hang out beforehand. And now it is like very much a club where it's like, you can hang out, but it's more difficult. You're having to talk over music and whatever. It's what it's for. Great. I still love it. And awesome theme. They killed it this year. Actually, one of the biggest jump scares for my brother-in-law was at the Dead Coconut Club. One of the actors came and did like a little fan thing behind him, and that fan. And
sorry, that's my new merch today, guys. This year. Anyway, that's fantastic.
Had a great time there, and then we got in. We weren't in a hurry to get there right at opening, mainly because I'm like, we don't need to wait in that line. But we got in, and I will say for not doing express, I was able to do every house that night. And I did Insidious twice.
Oh,
no.
Okay, that's
Three. No, I did do it twice. It was twice. So sorry, I was like, did I do it 3 times that night? I know you did express, and then we waited in line for it.
It's a blur. I don't, spoiler alert, I don't have an official house count from my night,
and
because it's just
that's a testament, because usually you're pretty good with your counts and all. So that shows that, like,
yep,
it really was a blur for you. But yeah, we started off. I don't even remember which ones we even started off with, but we went and we did a bunch of the houses. Oh no, you know what? We just did the typical go to the right, and we did museum. And some of the sound stages, easy, because those were lower wait times. We didn't, so I actually did not get to do the show at all this year. Didn't have the time for it, and honestly, from what I heard of fighting to get into the show, wasn't that interested. If it was something where I could have gotten in line at normal time and done it, I probably would have. But I was like, I'm not going to get in line early. Wait, do the show. It's fine. But all in all, everybody made it through the night pretty good. We had a good group of people. Only a couple of us did Insidious because it was an hour wait, and people weren't as. But I will say, okay, so here I led up to this. So we're going through Insidious. It's great. Had a great time, and getting scared. And then we make it partway through the house. One of our friends turns around and looks at me and says, "I peed."
Oh no.
And then I was like,
ladies and gentlemen, like, this happens. Before we go on, there was a joke. Abby just recently told this story. My wife worked at the event, and there was a coordinator famous for saying, if you guys can get someone to pee, I'm buying food, I'm buying pizza. So, haunted houses, local haunted houses keep count. But we got one live in a group, Brian.
Oh, wait, Brian. That's not over.
Oh, my.
We make it to another room, and then she gets hit again. And so the red curtain room. I peed again.
Yeah.
And we make it out, and I'm laughing just because I'm like, okay, like, oh, sure, okay, like, whatever. You probably, like, whatever.
Yeah.
She was wearing leggings and made it aware that she was not lying. So yes, Insidious officially made one of my friends pee her pants. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible, but it was like, just enough to, I was like, but oh my gosh, like, I was like, that is
the test.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, that happens at local haunts. It doesn't happen at HHN as often. That's if there was ever a house.
And
that's
I mean,
the one, Ryan.
I will say consistently, I kept on. I'd gone through the house a decent amount of times. I think, Brian, this one might be the record for me. I think I counted at least 10 run-throughs for me with this house.
I said, if this isn't the house at the permanent location, what are they doing? This needs to.
And I had my scare of the event in that house that I will remember. It's ingrained in my mind now, and it was great. Yeah. Every time I went through, there was at least one big scare. Every time I would go through the curtain area, I'd be nervous no matter what.
Something.
I mean,
and Ryan, guys, where we differ on when we rank our houses, something that is probably fair to say one of the most important things for you is consistency. And you will knock a great house if you have an amazing experience and then a not good experience.
I was torn because, like, this year I'm really unsure where I'm going to put Ghostbusters, because there was, due to cast issues, specifically missing cast. There's sometimes I went through and it was hitting on all cylinders and it was awesome, but there was a lot of times that there was a good. That's why I think Quiet Place for me is actually a decently high, because the use of puppets and animatronics, it doesn't matter if there's a bunch of cast missing, because the puppets are what's scary. Right. So that's something where if I go through enough times, I mean, I told you, Brian, I mean, I think Ghostbusters might be my second most gone through house this year. I still only got one time that there was a Garaka at the end. So, I mean, I would say at this point, maybe 7 or 8 times, with only one time was in the finale scene, the actual main set piece actually there.
Yeah, I don't know why he's missing so much there.
That's, to me, because
because the other one is in the house.
They have like 3 or 4 in there sometimes. And
here's a question. This would be no.
And
there's no way that's a second he can do.
I don't think so.
Right?
because he's on stilts, so it'd have to be a really quick move.
He's on stilts. I've seen people can move pretty quick. I'd never thought about that because I just said if someone could confirm, because he's missing too much, and there's another stilt scare in that house. There's no way that because he's always there.
And
he's
I mean,
going
like
back and forth.
for the scare factor, I get it, but I still stand by that. If that's the decision, you should have just put some sort of statue there.
Yeah, because it's the climax.
Yes.
It's the biggest finale.
And if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, your fault for not seeing the movie. Yeah. It's really like, okay, so what are they aiming at? Oh, a door,
right?
You know, but
door, yeah, no,
but yep.
We had that problem. We missed it on our first run.
Okay.
Man, so
it was great.
Like,
so Friday night was great. We ended up. So Brian, I closed out the park. Which
everybody, ladies and gentlemen, I need you all to know how big of a deal that is.
The pace, that was the thing. It was one of the better pace nights I'd had in a long time because we were able to. Our average wait time was like 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Insidious was our longest at like 50, and so we were able to just get enough pace to go through and be able to do things. Because if the waits are too long, then you get really tired and you want to leave. But if they're like too short, sometimes you can get burnt out. That happened to me with Premium Scream Night, where I'm like, I've done so much, I don't know if I can't get scared anymore. But we ended up closing out. Ended up going to Junior Columbia. We Ubered to Junior Columbian Burger. I walked into where I was staying at 3:15. Pretty hungover. Yeah.
Golly.
And ate Junior Columbian Burger in my bed, and then fell asleep. And being an old man, you know what? I still woke up about 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't get it. That's part of the charm for me of HHN, right?
It was something that it was great, awesome, absolutely loved it. And but I will say the next day I felt it a lot. I pretty much just like laid down and was like, and then by the time HHN Saturday night rolled around, I was like, I want to go. I don't need to do very much. So we did 3 houses on Saturday night. I did some of my favorites. We did Insidious, Monstrose, I think, and Quiet Place, which that might have been one of the better runs of Quiet Place I'd done. But that was all I really wanted to do. I was like, honestly, just the 3 because I wanted my last night to be very good as well.
Well, and you want to be good. You want to see what you want to see, and you're not going to top that night.
No, and also, remember, I had just a couple weeks prior done a 4-day trip. I've done these houses.
Right.
I mean, every house I did probably at least 4 or 5 times. Some of them more than that. I mean, I did Monstrose. Actually, Monstrose would be my second most go through. Gone through a house. The only thing was that line ended up being fairly inconsistent with Express. We ended up having to wait a decent amount with that one. But yeah, and then Sunday night I went and I did what I like to refer to as my greatest hits night.
And what were the greatest hits?
I will say I put on here that I also did redos. So there were some. So when I got to the park, Brian, I think you can relate to this. I was going to go. My plan was to do, was Insidious, Ghostbusters, and Monstrose. Those were the 3 I was going to do. Yeah. And plus stay on the soundstage side and then book it out of there. I was actually texting you because I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here by 8 o'clock. I wanted to be responsible. I was going to be driving back to Savannah that night, and I for some reason, I used to be able to drive through the night just fine. Didn't have any issues falling asleep, but recently it's become more of a thing. Even if I'm drinking caffeine and whatever like that, it's still hard for me to stay.
No, bodies get old and it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So I didn't want to push it because I'm like, hey, I got to be extra careful. And plus the last hour from Jacksonville up to Savannah is pretty hard because there's not much there.
No, when I drove last year, when I had to do the 24-hour trip to Tampa and back for work from South Carolina, I saw parts of Georgia and Florida I had not driven through, and I drove through at night, and it is, you want to be as alert as possible. It is nothing. It is dark. It is, even Savannah, when I rolled up in to stay at your house, I mean, off the interstate, I was like, this is like borderline creepy.
Yeah, there's not much. Most of the towns are a couple miles off the highway, so you don't really get much highway action.
No, there's nothing.
So I wanted to be responsible, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to get there as close as I can to opening. I got there a little bit before, grabbed a Dead Coconut Club beer. I was responsible one to
Yep.
get a cocktail, but you know what? I'm like, I'm going to be driving in a bit. Don't know what this beer is going to do to me. So, but I need to be a little bit buzzed to do this. But I got there, and as soon as I walked through the gates, I was like, you know what? I gotta do more. I can't just do 3. I gotta do. So I looked. The wait times for the back of the park houses were like 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm booking it to the back.
I'm gonna go do.
Those aren't even the ones I want to do.
I knew it.
Those aren't even the ones I want to do. So I'm doing.
Ryan was like, I'm going to do a few. I said, there's no way you go into this bar.
So I did museum.
I knew it.
I did Slaughter Cinema 2, and I did Monsters because I will say, like, overall, like, I'm glad I did Slaughter Cinema a couple more times because my opinion of that house ebbed and flowed, where it was like, good house, great house. You know what? I'm not feeling it to back to like, okay, like I think this was a solid rendition. I will say hands down, Slaughter Cinema 1 to me better. Also, I'll say the way that I know that the best for myself is do you know what my favorite room in the house is?
In Slaughter Cinema 2?
The last room.
I mean, is
the one with all the original movies.
The OG. Yeah. It's not Slum and Chum and whatever.
Well, it's just like I'm saying Cult of the Peace Baby and Pumpkin Guts. Like I'm cheering for those. So I'm like, oh, okay. But so we will get more into our rankings and whatever like that in the next episode. Again, all this to say with it, everything there is good this year. Or not. Yeah. You know. But yeah, so I did Museum, which Museum was a great run through. Slaughter Cinema 2 was a great run through. Monsters for me this trip was kind of okay. Like didn't really have another great run through. I had one good run through of Monsters pretty much my entire run through this year. That was pretty good. By the time I was done with Monsters, my time was slowing. I got stuck behind a lot of RIP tours in a row going, which, hey, good for them. But like when you're sitting there in Express and you just see like one show up and they put it in front of you and then another one shows up and they put it in front of you and then another one shows up, you're like, all right, I'm like in a loop right now. I need to get out of this loop because it's affecting my time.
Going back to our theory of, I think they're trying to get people off of those.
So did that. I decided not to do Goblin's Feast because honestly, like Goblin's Feast was like, it's a good house, but like to me, it never changed. It was like, Goblin's Feast was Goblin's Feast. If you wanted to do it, it was always going to be the same level, never better, never worse. It was just consistently like good. Like, so I was like, I don't need to see this one again. And plus my time, I need to maybe start looking at going over to the sound stages. It took me about probably an hour to get through those 3 houses, get in the back. And then also, like I said, the time I was slowing down a little bit as far as my timing. And I got stuck behind an RIP tour going out the exit. And it was because I was like, I need to book it around them, but I couldn't because they were. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then by that time, I made it over to Ghostbusters. I was going to do Ghostbusters, and then the Express line was actually really like the person checking the tickets was really like it was backed up. So it was actually in the Jimmy Fallon section with all the posters. It backed up all the way into that hallway, and I was like, this is not the time to go in there. Wow. It's going to be a long Express line. Yeah. By that time, I actually got a text from my sister saying that she and my brother-in-law had actually come and they wanted to do a couple houses with me before I left. Didn't think we were going to be able to do that, so it worked out timing-wise. So I went with them. We did Ghostbusters, Insidious, and then I left. So I actually wasn't able to do Monsters one last time, but I actually had a really good run-through Saturday night. I had an excellent run-through Saturday night, and I figured, I was like, hey, let's end on the great run-through. Like, and then... right.
That'll come up later too. Let me add that.
Yep,
to my
walked
notes.
out, and then that was it. Stopped by Buc-ee's in Daytona and got my first Buc-ee's brisket sandwich, and
nice. I think a few of us agree that the brisket sandwich.
I would agree,
but
it wasn't.
But
as for the price, especially, it was not fantastic.
Right, but if you're trying to stop at a gas station. It's the best food. Like it's like a Sheetz.
I was kind of in the mood for like a burger or chicken sandwich, and I was like, I had never actually eaten Buc-ee's before. I needed gas, and I was gonna get some sort of type of energy drink or soda.
As someone who has chronic stomach problems, Buc-ee's is my go-to stop because of
their bathrooms are great too. So that's why I was like, this is a good all-in-one stop. Let me go there. And I'm like, all right, what food do they have? And I'm like, okay, not what I would choose, but it's either this or I have to stop a couple miles down the road at a Burger King, and I'd rather just go ahead and take something with me now. Because at that point, I was like, I need to book it because I'm going to crash quickly.
Yes. So my other question, because you didn't mention them at all, did you care any more or less about scare zones?
This time around, the thing is I mean, they're fine. I think that for you and I, we were spoiled by Premium Stream Night.
They took on a different life form. I
have memories from scare zones, which I'm thankful for because it's been so long since I've had memories of scare zones. They were fine. I didn't get scared by it really. I will say, I think there was a couple people in Demon Queens that were extra. So that one they always put in extra effort. Blumhouse seemed a little bit more picture zone, selfie zone this time around. They had a less people. It seemed like walking around and more people up on stage.
Up on stage, yeah. I think the people that messed up the flow. It's just too tight. It's a hard space, and their stages take up so much room. And all of my, I know, I'm not. Wait, I
was going to say, I'm not going to talk about surveys or what's in the content either, but I will say in all of my comments, when they reference scare zones, I would always state, like, hey, like, I don't fault you guys. Like, they're not really good. Like, but, like, maybe we can come up with an alternative. Like, let's come up with a way that we can change these up where we're not trying to scare people, maybe, and let's just accept that.
Right. Yeah. And just change it into an atmosphere zone with more effects, more that's an interesting strategy and topic we should talk more on. I'm gonna add that to the notes for a later episode because I have some ideas on that. Side note, were there any new characters or were the characters all the same from when we went?
In like the scare zones or in the
in Blumhouse scare zones?
I don't remember anything new, but
was there
but honestly, I'll say, like, especially that one, I just kind of used it as a way to get it from different sides of the party. I wasn't paying too much attention.
Right. But was there a movie that we thought was going to be present in that zone that wasn't present after certain political
they had the Purge
happened?
there when we were there for Premium Scream Night.
Okay.
Because that was the guy that I walked with.
But with you. Oh, he was the Purge. Okay. Someone asked, they said, was this always here? I said,
Purge was always there. They just didn't advertise it. And also it makes sense because they have characters from it, but it's not like a Purge scare zone. So it's like perfectly fine for them to do.
Any rides or pass on that?
Honestly, no, because I will say that from you and I doing Mummy during Premium, I was a little bit wary because that one threw me off that one night. That was kind of my downhill spiral. So I was like, you know what? I'm here to do HHN. I was a little bit tempted to do Rocket just because you don't know how long it's going to be there.
I'm gonna make a note about that.
No, you're fine. We need more. Right. We're at episode 20. We need to hit episode 30 for season 6.
At this point, we might need to. All right. So overall, after having the most nights you've ever
tied,
done,
I did. So if I'd gone Wednesday, it would have been the most. But eight was my previous
tied.
record.
That's fine.
So.
How would you compare this year to the year that you tied?
I would have to know. It probably would have been 31, would be my guess, because I stayed on site. Mm-hmm. The hard thing is this. Okay. Like, am I getting into this now? I guess I'm getting into this now. Overall, it's like, so you texted me something, and I
look, I have stories, but I only had one night.
That's true.
So
you texted me something and you're like, man, like, what a great year. And I specifically texted back, what a good year. And I still...
And hold on. And I did not engage.
And the thought process behind that for me was like, this year had a lot of... I don't think there's a bad house. Legitimately, I don't think that there's any bad houses this year at all. But when I think of alternatives to these houses, like I said, Slaughter Cinema 2, I'm like, Slaughter Cinema 1, in my opinion, was a great house. It was better. I think Slaughter Cinema 2 is good. I think that, like, I would take any other Monsters house over this Monsters house. I would, go ahead.
Question. When you say it's a good year versus great year, is it only houses, or do you take into account scare zones and shows and food and drinks?
Honestly, I'd probably incorporate it all. Now, I didn't do the show, so I can't sit, do the show. But like,
right? But we
and
haven't
like
done the
it's
show
like
for
I don't know
years,
if this is
so.
like a spoiler for a future episode, but it's like in my opinion, I would say my favorite year would probably be 2017 because every year gets nerfed because I don't like the show. So 2017 has a great show, great scare zones, and great houses. So like, to me, that even 28, which I believe is the best year for houses, like I was like, oh, it's the best houses, but the scare zones were okay, and they didn't have Bill and Ted, so there's a little bit of, so that's now I don't think that there's a like if you say it's great, I'm not going to really disagree with you. I just think that everything was good, but to me there wasn't, besides Insidious and Monstros, I don't think that there was any houses that really stood out to me. I would actually, and I'm in the minority of this, I actually would take Ghostbusters 29 over this over Frozen Empire.
Oh my god.
Because I love that house.
Okay.
And I also think it's more.
We're spawning a new episode. You guys want to know how we do episodes?
I also think it's more fun. So
fun is not scary. I don't go here for fun. I didn't think
Frozen
Ryan.
Empire was very
scary.
I will say now,
but that also
to go back to consistency, there was about one time I went through and actually got hit by the scares. The rest of the time it was just like, all right, people are saying quotes from the movie to me that I don't care about from this terrible movie. Still a good house. I was very, I'd say probably the best rendition you could of Frozen Empire. But I mean, Ghostbusters to me is an all-timer, and so like I don't care going through and having Venkman at the end give me a high five and say we came, we saw, we kicked it. I'm like, that to me is like a moment I will remember.
That's fair, and that's where you get into the
of course
subjectiveness of it, which is
and
why
again
this
I
is
wouldn't
fun,
argue
right?
if someone said that they thought Frozen Empire was better than this one.
Well, and the first Ghostbusters doesn't even crack my like top 25 of the last, and it's because again I don't have the affinity for it. Rob, I would love to have on. What I would love to do and what I want to do, and this needs to be its own episode, Ryan. We're gonna do our every house ranking ever, right? But I also think we need to go through. I've been taking a lot of surveys recently, so this is where my mind's at. And I'm not allowed to talk about it, so I'm not going to. But I think we take the last, I don't know, we could do every year, I guess. Maybe we just do every year, and this is going to be a big thing. Score it 1 to 10. Excuse me. Score every house 1 to 10, every show 1 to 10, every scare zone 1 to 10, all the food 1 to 10. Come up with
I would love this
score and then rank.
Wait, and then we need to do it individual and then a group's like a podcast score of like we might not even know, like it might be a year that we didn't really expect, but so for the years I went like,
is it my turn?
So back to the original question. 31 has 3 of my favorite houses of all time. It is
Wicked Grove.
It's
was that 31?
No, that was 30. 31, Dead Man's Pier.
Sorry, guys.
Dead Man's Pier. Halloween.
After.
And Universal Monsters. The Egypt one. I forget.
The Mummy.
Collide. Universal Monsters Collide. So those are 3, and I did the Unmasking the Horror Tour. Now, Brian, another thing that actually you made me think about was you had mentioned Museum.
Dead Man's Pier.
That's pretty amazing. You mentioned Museum, and you're like, man,
it's
how like to have the behind the scenes info. This house has so much lore and stuff like that in there. I'm like, maybe the reason I love 31 so much is because I did the Unmasking the Horror Tour. So like, heck, even like a house like Prison for me, I'm a little bit more warm on than a lot of people, but I also got a really in-depth information, and I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. So going through it, I liked it more this year.
I mean, the private recipes tour, as you know, and remember, they give you information. They give you, and while we don't get the in-depth behind the scenes tour, we got look for this, and then when you go through again, notice this to that, and it just connects. And
my only counter is that they release podcasts. You should have the info in the podcast.
You should, but they don't.
I mean, true, but like, you have a way to deliver this information, it would be great. Because I would love, like, heck, museum was one of my higher, like,
I would love
anticipated houses.
Here's the thing. I remember back in the app days, you would scan stuff and you got the backstory on your phone. Where did that go?
That's true, yeah.
Because that's how I learned about the spawning. That's how I learned about back in 2009. Like, that's how I got my information. The website games. But overall, I mean, this year was weird speculation season, not the IPs we thought, and some originals we didn't expect.
True.
And even leading in IPs we weren't excited
I wouldn't
for.
be surprised if in our group ranking this year might actually be one of the higher ranked ones, because like I said, there isn't a bad.
I won't say it's the best. I won't say it's the best. I will say it's up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, I would agree that up there, because honestly, also a lot of these years, I have rose-colored glasses. Like, I think back to some of the early years I went, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had such great houses, and I'll like look through them, and I'm like, ooh, that one wasn't the best. That one was okay.
Yeah.
Like the Walking Dead years, like okay, like
no, don't get me started on the Walking Dead years. I don't want anybody to talk any amount of trash if you did not live through the Walking Dead
definitely
years.
true. And I mean, when I see people talk about like this year being like the best year of all time, I'm like, okay, like I do feel like maybe some of the post 25, like years, I think really 28, 29 was to me peak, but also subjective to each their own. But
right, depends on what you're looking for and what you like.
Ooh, you know what? This year could have really used a lagoon show.
What? I said that to our tour guide specifically.
Yeah, because I'm like, when I think about some of those years, I'm like, man, remember the laser show with Ghostbusters and all the things? And I'm like,
I'll do you one. I'll do you one better, because the glory days were back in the day when they had the roaming drum show. They had the Beetlejuice theater show, so they had 2 theater shows and a roaming show. They just need something else. And obviously, I'm going to be the biggest mark here for Rocky Horror Picture Show. The 2 years we got Rocky Horror Picture Show and Halloween Horror Nights was the greatest years, regardless of how wildly
and I'm not even a fan of Rocky Horror. Now, I haven't seen it, so it's like I can't, like, but I'll take it. So
the problem is, if you see it now, it doesn't matter. It won't mean anything.
Well, what if I find one of the shows where they like throw the things at the screen or whatever like that?
The only way you will like it is if you go. So here's my new request: don't ever watch it unless you can go to.
And I will say, Brian, I probably am starting off at a negative because I haven't watched it, but my theater I used to work at used to show those showings, and I would have to clean up afterwards, and it would be the worst, the worst shift of all.
That's honestly fair.
And I'd be like, I'm like, stupid Rocky Horror people, and they would always do everything. I'm like, oh, you just threw popcorn everywhere. Why?
No. Why? Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
You know what? Maybe I come up and we go and see one of those shows together or whatever.
I would love that. Maybe down at Universal when they bring it back.
But yes, so that overall, and I mean, I'll get into my more overall in-depth stuff in the rankings and whatever. I look forward to talking about each of them, but yeah, honestly, like I think every house I might. I'm sorry, I don't like to make huge sweeping things without actually thinking about it for a second. I would say I had a really good scare in every house this year except for Goblin's Feast. But I didn't expect a good scare out of Goblin's Feast anyways. That's not what that house was for me.
Yeah.
So.
No. Okay. So.
Yes.
Are we transitioning?
You can go.
Can I go? Can I talk now? No, I'm just kidding. So we did Premium Rest in Peace, or Premium Screamium, and then Opening Night, and then I did Rest in Peace Tour. Those were my 3 takes at the event.
And then you did SeaWorld afterwards.
I did SeaWorld afterwards. That was a mistake. Not because it was bad, because I was tired. But I had not seen the event in a month. Over a month, actually, because we went on the 29th?
Yeah.
And then I went again on October 3rd. So, and I did some local haunts in between. It was great. So we got down, we went to Legoland for 3 days, went to Orlando. On Wednesday night was when a lot of the Rest in Peace Tour crew got in. We went and played putt-putt.
You got to play putt-putt again.
I forgot my voucher. I was so angry. And I did terrible, Ryan. I did awful.
Which side did you won?
The sci-fi. Yeah, Tawan won. Tawan crushed it. We just hung out. We went, shopped, all that. Our friend Spence, who's been on the show, went into the park that night because he's as big of a fan as us. And he went and bought a fast pass and did the whole event that night.
Did you do unlimited or just the one?
He did the regular, and he did Islands of Adventure the day up. Yeah, so he's going hard in the paint, as you would say. So then the next day, we spent all day at the pool and hot tub, and then we go over to Cabana Bay. We had Cabana Bay as a hotel just for the 3 a.m. close, and just to have fun, right, to have the boat ride. And we went to the Meet for the Rest in Peace tour. We had everybody who was on the tour had done the tour before except for Tawan, and Tawan had not been back since
25. I couldn't remember because
25.
Because he was down there for my wedding and for 27, but he was only down for the day. I couldn't quite remember if he had come or not, but
no. And if anybody who remembers, we had him coming last year. He had to leave. He couldn't make it last minute. I love this man. He and I have a scare from 25. It was one of the years they put a whole scene after a soundstage outside. And we got scared so hard we fell against the cinder block holding the exit door open and closed the soundstage.
You locked the people in there. So some people say they're still there to this day.
Them in. So we show up. New game plan this year. We are not going to go to La Bamba's first because it wastes too much time after watching the open ceremonies. But then I learned you don't have to start at the opening ceremonies. You can start in La Bamba 30 minutes before the event starts. That's what we did. We went, we ate.
And you probably get like better options of food and all because like you're the first ones there.
Correct. Yes. So no lines. It is the new private Rest in Peace tour move. Our tour guide, because Andrew is at Disney. He's no longer at Universal. When I called him, they said, hey, do you have any notes for the tour guide? I said, we're going to do more houses than you've ever done in a night. Broke that again with this guy. He thought he knew. He didn't. He wasn't ready, but he was down to go. And he actually commended our strategy. He said it's the best strategy he's seen because he's like, most people do one full lap and then they eat and they ride something and they're like, oh, let's see them all again. And it's a waste of steps and time. So he loved our strategy. You just do double up each time? He might even double up each time. It just makes the most sense. Why no one's thought of it because... and Ryan, we've been outdone. I asked the question that I asked our one tour guide. I said, what's the least amount of houses you've ever seen? And, you know, I've told the story of one of the Rest in Peace tour guides saying they did nothing one time. They just went and drank. They had a group like that. He said he went, not only did they not see anything, they went to Diagon Alley and they stayed in Diagon Alley the entire night. But where we've been outdone, one guy booked the tour and did Insidious 9 times in a row. He did the thing we joked about.
But only 9 times with an RIP tour?
He went, it was Rest in Peace tour. We meet with him, we give him the plan, we go, we eat at La Bamba, and he suggests, I tell him the plan, and he goes, where do you want to start? And I wanted to start with sound stages. But he was like, let's do the tents first. There. And I said, that's the right move. Because I don't want to show them the best of the best, right? So we go and do the tents, and even though they're in a better location, you still have to do the weird thing where you do one tent, second tent, one tent, second tent.
Did you still have to do that with Museum and Slaughter? Okay.
Yes, sir. So we do back to back, all that. And I'll tell you what, Ryan.
Go ahead, finish.
Go ahead. Getting the backstory on Museum and Monsters helped quite a bit.
Yeah.
I will say. Just trying to get a little bit more information. But yeah, I still love all of that. I raved to him about that setup.
Oh, the new sound stages. After you did the first 2 tents, did he take you back through the park, or did you get to do a back way to the other sound stages?
We did a back way.
Because on my way, I'm like,
stop calling them sound stages.
Yeah,
sorry. No, we did a back way just straight over to them. It saved Ryan. We had, I forget who I texted, but we had done the 4 tents twice in less than an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 8 run-throughs in less than an hour.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. So we were doing so good on time that we then decided to walk to the front of the park. And I'm going to pause here because I want to talk about Wednesday Night Dead Coconut Club. Abby I made her go. She did not love the decor. I am so glad she did not get a character scare like your brother-in-law, because she would have been so mad. I told her it wasn't scary, and she was looking at the black phone stuff, and she's like, there's way too many people, like, relaxed in a very horrific environment.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. So, we go through the rest of the park. I want to say we went to Sweets next, but we saw the show. So this was the weird thing, and I can't remember it because I've never seen the show. Rest in Peace Tour gets one showtime. They can make a call to make it work. But there's one tour, or there's one time, which makes sense, honestly, because like you said, it's a pain to get in. And they only want to cut off an entire section of seating one time. And that makes sense to me. So we went and saw Nightmare Fuel. I'm still a fan. It was not as good as opening night because the show was amazing. The actors were better, but the audience was not into it the same way. And that's what changed it. But it was still great. Everybody loved it. Everyone was blown away because the athleticism in this show. And Ryan, the one thing that I had a big complaint with that makes me not a true horror person or whatever, and Abby and everybody, they actually like put clothes on people, and it was a lot. Literally, my tour guide said people are complaining because it's less sexy this year. That's because of us. We put that on the review.
Everyone, forward your complaints to Brian.
That's right. It was me. So then we go to Sweets, and then we finish out on Sound Stages. Do all of them twice. Incredible. And then we go do a new thing I hadn't done. We went and rode Revenge of the Mummy, but then got a tour under the track.
Oh, I've always wanted to do that. Did your RIP tour guide, or was it another person that did it?
Recipe store guy. He said, hey, we can also. He's like, have you guys done? Because I told him we had done the tour before. He was like, have you done the Men in Black thing? I said, yeah. He goes, have you done the Mummy thing? I was like, what's the Mummy thing? He's like, oh, you can go under the final turn, for like a short minute. I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we did that, and then at that point, Ryan, as it goes, people broke apart, and some people went to Diagon Alley, and the rest of the night was just four of us running hard.
Who's the four?
To do the rest of the houses again and again. Tawan, Spence, Billy, me. So here's the biggest thing I can say. Ryan, and I was texting you, every house was crazy. Nice. We started on Museum, and I told Abby, I hyped Abby up because Abby, my wife, I forgot her earplugs. She hates this event, and I was like, look, the first three are not scary. Goblins is fun. Monsters is beautiful. It's not scary. Like it's like I'm nervous that people are going to be nervous for this year on the recipe store after they see these houses. We got out of Monsters, and Billy, special guest, and Abby looked at me and they said, you said that one wasn't scary, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie. Museum is not last on my list anymore, and it helped because we had the the information, all that. Slaughter Cinema. I swear, Ryan, it felt like what we saw opening weekend versus what I saw was like, and I've always said this, but it felt full force, all cylinders firing, and the best thing with recipe stores, you get to see everything. You see all the first sets. You're going to see the best, most energetic, whatever. The throw-up scene in the beginning of Slaughter Cinema, I had not gotten hit by. That actor crushed it. Actors, and I will say this, in contrast of what you said, not only were there no holes, there were more people in houses that I had not seen. Ghostbusters, the freaking triple scare in Ghostbusters into the next room was crazy, and
when that one gets hit, it's really good,
and it was consistent this time. There were people everywhere in every house. There was only one house that was worse than when we went, and it is now at my bottom, and I was bummed because this was a house I was high on. Not high on, but like it was in mid-card field. I loved the idea, the scariness of this house. It's now at the bottom. Goblins, absolutely loved it. It was a fan favorite for the Rest in Peace crowd. And then Sound Stages, Insidious. What more do you,
I didn't hear this. You said he got wrecked. What scare got him?
Tawan came out and was leaning on the fence. He got hit by everything, Ryan. He got hit by 80% of the scares in there, and he was on the fence going, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. He got destroyed in that house. We went through it a second time. Everyone else got wrecked. People, we were, screaming, running, everything hit. Then we went into Monstros. I hit the ground with the final scare. I had a hat throw scare. This hat, the middle stilt scare. I forgot about it for the first time we went in. Totally forgot about it. I took the hat off and went to throw it, and I refrained. That house was amazing. Also, I don't know. They were everything hit. Sweets was phenomenal. I don't know. This was the strongest, most consistent house run throughs I had ever seen. So the only weird downer, so I'm going to hit some of my notes here. We decided when you book a Rest in Peace tour, you can either stop and do a lunch break for the employee, and you can pay for his lunch if you're not at La Bamba. So normally we do that in the Diagon Alley area. Or you can go straight through lunch and he'll leave at 1:30. He left at 1:30. We did Rocket. We closed out on it. Fantastic. And I missed the music or all the options. And we go to do Insidious. We go to close out on Insidious at 1:50. They do not let us in the express line because they said your tour is over. Your Unlimited Express no longer works. It only works for the attractions. And we were a little bummed and annoyed, and I wanted to fight it, and the wait time was over an hour. And had we not had SeaWorld booked for 10 a.m. the next day, we probably would have done it. But to your point, and you said this earlier, we had so when we decided to hit what houses we want to do last, we got 4 of them, and we went and did our run-throughs. We went through Insidious. I got hit by scares I don't think I had even seen yet, which feels impossible. It was the perfect run through, and I didn't need to.
Once you have those, you're like, you know what? Let's just remember it that way, because you do have the odd chance that you go through and you end it on that wasn't the best, but I had that good one. Right. You're like, you know what? Let's just end it on the good one, and especially after you've done it so many times. I mean, you probably are up there with me. You've probably done it 10 times too.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But man, what a we had just a phenomenal time. People, but again, to your point, and the problem with the Rest in Peace tour, after doing 18 run-throughs, you're burnt out. Your adrenaline's down. It's so fast-paced. It's like the premium Scream event.
Ultimately, that's why I like doing the multi-night passes when I can. Now, I understand for people out of town, it's not nearly as feasible, but it's like when you can, because you do get breaks, you can experience things. If you have an off night, you can go on another night. If you have a night where it's like, the cast is kind of... And this year, it seems really weird, because I've seen people that, on Fridays or Saturdays are like, oh, there's a bunch of holes. But then, Wednesday night, it's like, oh, everybody's here. So, it's not like it's like, oh, yeah, during the week, they're lower cast, and then on the weekend, they're full cast.
Yeah. I will say, we did get some decent Scare Zone scares at the end of the night at 1 a.m. when everything had thinned out. But before that, who cares? What are you doing? I did want to talk about, so I'm not going to name the private Rest in Peace tour guy just out of respect, and some of the stuff he talked about and some of the stuff I asked about. Let's see if I can remember. Okay, so you brought up the chaperone thing. How HHN doesn't have a chaperone policy. They want to implement one. They do not have the capacity to handle it. Staff-wise. And he said that. I asked about it, and he said, they looked into it immediately because of how bad it's been. And he said it has been bad. The teens, it's just something else is going on.
I mean, the candy.
So it was... I
can't believe no one's made that joke. I'm the first one to make that joke. I want to take credit for it. Dad points.
That's... My God.
I mean, there's a whole house about. They got to stop. They got to close the house.
I'm gonna die now.
You could take the candy too.
Yeah, you can. Oh my God. What's wrong with you? I don't remember what this was. Oh, he did mention about Rocket. because I said, can we ride it? Is it going to be the last time? He said the reason all the rumors are flying is because they're at a do or die time.
Refurb.
They either need to refurb hard or pull it out. So we went and did it. I rode the second row. People are
What
babies.
song?
It was amazing. It's not rough. My Chemical Romance.
Oh yeah, because it's 5.
I mean, there's only. Yeah.
Do they block the secret track list now, or?
No, the secret track he said was still available. I didn't feel like risking it.
What? Wait, I have to ask. Was Monster Mash one of the options? Dang it.
It was not one of the options. I did tell him about that. He said, hey, if we keep it, I'll put in a good word. So, he said, oh my God, that song would be perfect. I said, I agree. He had some other fun tidbits of information about the park and about the houses. And one of the good ones, and one that's not going to be shocking to anybody, was during Insidious. And this is known, I'm pretty sure, on the regular tour too. Pretty much they were given 100% green light to do whatever they wanted, however many actors they wanted, whatever they wanted to do, however many scares in a scene. There were no rules. It was just run with it and do whatever you want. And they did, and it's a reason it's the best house. I mean, he also talked about the ending of Monsters, which I finally feel like I got somewhat understanding of the storyline. And even then, he even said it was a little weird. He was nicer than some of the other tour guides have been about it. He's like, it's weird. Monsters and Goblins, just amazing.
Great.
Loved them. Yeah. The amount of actors, the amount of scares.
I have heard Goblins, like people like as like a lot of people are really giving Goblins a lot of accolades now, as far as like. Now I will say I don't understand. A lot of people are saying that's like a scary house now, and I'm like, I just don't see how that could happen.
It was more intense than when I went through it. And I don't know if that's people learning the scares or triggers. There were 2 scares that hit me really hard.
Was the hand working?
One. But I also the hand was working. Not as good as I've seen.
It worked
the
best. It worked better in premium.
Yeah, it worked better in premium, but that hand is a big prop in local haunts as well. And I went through National Nightmare in between premium night and Rest in Peace tour, and they did the hand a lot better. But it's because they get away with a lot more. But I was just happy to see it working. And again, Billy brought out a good point. That house and a few other houses really utilized screens better this year than last year. Really enjoyed that. But just this, I mean, those new locations are fantastic.
Oh, that was such a good move. Like, I love it. And the fact that they're really like permanent tents, not sound stages. Well, not permanent tents, but semi-permanent tents.
But overall, we had a great time. And the biggest thing I asked him, Ryan, I talked to him.
Wait,
because I you know me, I'm
Billy.
What?
You didn't ask where Billy was? Dang it!
I didn't ask Billy. It
man,
wasn't even on my mind. I'm so sorry. I had bigger questions, Ryan. I said, hey, I went to the premium Scream event, and he's like, what did you think? And I told him everything. And I said, here's my fear. I took the survey. I wanted to have it. He goes, they're going to do it again. He goes, I can't tell you it's 100% confirmed, but at the end of it, after the last minute ticket sales and after the final number, they made enough money that it made sense. And the talk is they want to fix it and make it for next year. So, with that news, Private Recipe's tour is dead to me for one main reason, Ryan. I know you all are listening. Everybody that went on the tour, you're my friends. Even Ryan's been on the tour. I love you. I hate dealing with it. I don't want to talk about when are we going to eat. I don't want to talk about who's seeing the show. I don't want to talk about, you're going to go and I got to text to meet up. I don't want to talk about money. I have to collect the money from everybody. What I want to say is, hey.
We're going this night.
Here's the event. We're going this night. And if you get tired, great. I'm going to go do more houses and I don't have to worry about
your tour ending.
I don't have to. Correct. And that is. And the second biggest thing, I got hungry. I didn't eat again after La Bamba, Ryan. I went from 6 to 3 again. And I didn't even get a snack in Cabana. In the first night I did. I did get pizza. I got some pizza. That's true. I did eat. I lied. But all that to say, I would have
Yeah.
eaten more and had more water and had more stuff if the stops
Yes.
were better.
Awesome.
So, all that to say, great event. Loved it. Went to SeaWorld the next day. Died all day because it was 95 degrees. Got splashed by Shamu, if I'm allowed to say that. And then, Ryan, I'll bring it up on another podcast, but our Howl-O-Scream experience just reminded me why I miss events that are not as popular as HHN. Their new houses, they got to do stuff. I went through part of a house alone as a joke because one of the scenes, they like hold everybody and they're like, hold on, we need a sacrifice. You go. And he shut the door. And I had to go through one of their houses for half of it alone. There's scare zones.
Their scare zones are better.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Everything. And then Mako. So
Mako
we
night.
talk about that. But then I had to drive home the day after that for 15 and a half hours.
Don't know how you did it, but yeah, no, I think I'm definitely sold on doing Howl-O-Scream next year as part of it. Maybe a premium stream night Howl-O-Scream twofer.
That's what we got to do.
I don't know if I can do that and a 5K though.
We got to do the 5K.
But yeah, I mean, you sent me some photos, and I love that. I haven't gone in I think 2 years to Howl-O-Scream. I think I took
and all the houses are new, and guess who else had some red curtain scares, which is weird.
the Howl-O-Scream.
Howl-O-Scream, yeah, obviously. But they had a slot machine house, and the scenic was stepped up, and they had a red scare.
That's the thing. Anybody that's been insulting them or saying anything about their scene, it's like they're in the beginning. They're like,
right. You go back and look at houses from the 90s.
Look at HHN Hollywood.
Y'all are crazy. Yeah, look at.
Have you watched the walkthrough of Insidious over there?
Yeah. But the Quiet Place is good.
But yeah. Well, I mean, that's a summary of all you guys have heard our experience of Halloween Horror Nights 33. Sounds like we'll have some good discussions for the ranking episode, which should be out. Hopefully, I will say, you never know. I might be suddenly having other priorities or be at the hospital.
Watch.
We'll see. I'm hoping.
Is the contingency, we haven't talked about this, is the contingency that I just interview guests about HHN while you're gone?
I'm hoping,
Okay.
really, like, we're trying to record soon, so as long as we can get the ranking episode.
Well, no, not, the rate after the ranking episode.
Then I probably would,
episode.
So, like, try to get, like, one or two.
Yeah, Leah, I'm not going to lie. If you go to labor tomorrow, Ryan's still going to do rankings, so I just need you to be kind to him, okay?
Well, she already made that joke. She was like, he'll be, like, on there, be, like, talking about the rankings, and it's like, who's screaming in the background? Just
Hold on. What was your number 2 and why?
So, Brian, now, I this is the part of the episode, we're just talking. Now, the question is, with the ranking episode, do we try to mix it up and do it out of order? Because I feel like the end is going to be kind of not climatic.
Why don't we just do reverse
I
order?
did think about that.
I think, okay, we'll discuss it. I think there is something because we know what the top ones are. So that's
all
fair.
right. Well, cool. Well, thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Sorry for the delay. We definitely did not intend to wait this long in between episodes, but you got a supersized one.
It's been crazy. Yeah. Well, also I didn't get to tell this story, but fully. But yeah, we got hit by Helene and in Kentucky, a landlocked state, and lost all power and started our road trip out on our way to Florida by throwing everything away in our fridge. And we had to have family come check on the house. And so when we got back from the 15-and-a-half-hour road trip, there was no food in the house and everything was messed up from the power. That's it. That was the only story. But yeah, we're going to figure this out and we will record before Ryan goes into labor.
Before I do? Yeah. Yeah, we will record before I go into labor.
No.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe out there, folks.